The plane shuddered through turbulence as the infant's piercing cries echoed down the aisle, turning heads and drawing frustrated sighs from passengers. In seat 14B, tech millionaire Ethan Harlow clutched his 6-month-old son, Liam, desperately trying to soothe him with awkward pats and hushed shushes, his face flushed with embarrassment and exhaustion. Then, from across the row, a young college student named Kian Rivera leaned over, his voice cutting through the chaos with a soft, unexpected melody. A lullaby his own mother had sung to him years ago, and within moments, the baby quieted, nestling into Ethan's arms as if enchanted, sparking a connection that would unravel both men's carefully constructed lives. Ethan's world was one of polished boardrooms and hidden truths. At 35, he was the CEO of a thriving Silicon Valley startup, married to his high school sweetheart, Rebecca, and father to little Liam, the picture-perfect family man. But beneath the facade, Ethan had buried his attraction to men since college, convinced that coming out would shatter his empire, alienate his conservative investors, and destroy the life he'd built. The flight from New York to San Francisco was supposed to be routine, a quick business trip turned family vacation, but Liam's colic had turned it into a nightmare. As the cries intensified, Ethan felt the weight of judgmental stares, his mind racing with the fear that this small failure exposed him as the fraud he secretly believed himself to be. Kian, 22 and openly gay, was heading home to California after a semester abroad in Europe, his backpack stuffed with philosophy books and a journal full of poems about unrequited love. Raised in a working-class Latino family in Los Angeles, he'd come out at 18, facing his parents' initial shock but eventual reluctant acceptance. Still, the scars lingered, whispers from relatives, the loss of childhood friends, and Kian had learned to navigate the world with a quiet defiance, using his empathy as both shield and weapon. When he heard the baby's wails, something instinctive kicked in. He remembered babysitting his nieces and nephews, the way a simple song could bridge gaps. Leaning over, he asked Ethan if he could try, and with a nod of desperation, Kian began to sing softly in Spanish, the melody weaving through the hum of the engines. The baby stilled almost immediately, his tiny fists unclenching as he stared up at Kian with wide eyes. Ethan watched in awe, a mix of gratitude and something deeper stirring in his chest. A recognition, perhaps, of the vulnerability Kian displayed so freely. "How did you do that?" Ethan whispered as the plane leveled out. Kian smiled, shrugging. "Kids sense when you're genuine. No tricks, just heart." They talked through the remaining hours, Ethan sharing sanitized stories of his startup life, Kian opening up about his studies in social justice and his dreams of becoming a writer. By the time they landed, Ethan had slipped Kian his business card, insisting on buying him coffee as thanks. It was a simple gesture, but as Kian walked away, he felt a pull he couldn't explain. Back in San Francisco, Ethan tried to shake off the encounter. Rebecca greeted him at the airport with a kiss, Liam cooing happily now, the incident fading like a bad dream. But that night, as he lay awake, Ethan's thoughts drifted to Kian's easy laugh, the way his eyes lit up when talking about equality marches. Guilt gnawed at him. Rebecca deserved better than his divided heart. He buried himself in work, closing a major deal that week, but the card in his wallet burned like a secret. Meanwhile, Kian returned to his cramped apartment near UC Berkeley, replaying the flight in his mind. Ethan was older, married, straight, or so he seemed, yet there was an undercurrent, a shared glance that hinted at more. Kian pushed it aside, focusing on his thesis about LGBTQ+ rights in corporate America. But when Ethan's email arrived 2 days later, "Coffee on me? Let's make it lunch." He couldn't resist. Their first meeting was at a trendy cafe in the Mission District, neutral ground. Ethan arrived in a tailored suit, Kian in jeans and a graphic tee advocating for pride. Conversation flowed effortlessly. Ethan confessed his startup's mission to make tech accessible for underserved communities, aligning oddly with Kian's passions. But as they delved deeper, cracks appeared. Ethan mentioned his family casually, and Kian's heart sank a fraction. He'd Googled Ethan after the flight, seeing the glossy photos of him with Rebecca and Liam. "You're living the dream," Kian said lightly, but Ethan's eyes darkened. Dreams have prices. They parted with a handshake that lingered, both men sensing the spark but neither daring to name it. Over the next weeks, lunches became routine. Ethan justified them as mentorship, helping Kian with career advice, while Kian saw them as friendship, ignoring the butterflies. But tension built. One evening, after a particularly grueling day where Ethan's board questioned his focus, he called Kian impulsively. They met at a bar overlooking the bay, and under the influence of a few drinks, Ethan opened up about his stifling marriage, the pressure to conform. "I feel like I'm acting every day," he admitted. Kian listened, his own experiences pouring out. The rejection from his extended family, the fight for authenticity. For the first time, Ethan felt seen, not as the CEO, but as the man he'd hidden. The turning point came during a weekend hike in Muir Woods. Ethan had suggested it as a break from the city, Liam and Rebecca conveniently away visiting her parents. Amid the towering redwoods, away from prying eyes, their conversation turned intimate. Kian shared a story of his first heartbreak, a college boyfriend who left him for fear of judgment, and Ethan, voice trembling, confessed his own suppressed desires. "I've never said this out loud, but I think I'm like you." The words hung in the air, and in a moment of raw honesty, they kissed. A tentative, world-shifting touch that tasted of freedom and fear. But as they pulled apart, reality crashed in. Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca, pulling him back to his life. Guilt consumed Ethan that night. He paced his empty house, replaying the kiss, the betrayal to his vows. Rebecca had stood by him through the lean startup years. Liam was innocent in all this. Yet the pull toward Kian was undeniable, a lifeline to the self he'd denied. Kian, too, wrestled with turmoil. Falling for a married man went against everything he believed in. He journaled furiously, questioning his morals. Was he enabling deception? The next day, Ethan called to apologize, suggesting they end things, but Kian challenged him. "You can't keep living a lie. What about the price you're paying?" Their argument escalated, voices raised in a coffee shop, drawing stares. Ethan stormed out, but the seed of doubt was planted. Weeks passed in strained silence. Ethan threw himself into family life, attending couples therapy with Rebecca, who sensed his distance but attributed it to work stress. He even considered confessing everything, but the thought of losing Liam in a custody battle terrified him. Society's expectations loomed large. His investors were traditionalists, his social circle judgmental. Meanwhile, Kian channeled his pain into activism, organizing a campus event on coming out in professional worlds. But loneliness crept in. Friends noticed his distraction, pressing for details he couldn't share. Then, fate intervened. At a tech conference in San Francisco, Ethan spotted Kian in the audience during his keynote on inclusive innovation. Their eyes met, and after the talk, Kian approached. "Your speech was hypocritical," he said bluntly. "Talking about inclusion while hiding who you are." The confrontation stung, but it reignited the flame. They talked late into the night, Ethan admitting the kiss had awakened him. "I can't stop thinking about you," he confessed. Kian, torn between principle and desire, pulled away. "Then choose. But don't drag me into your shadows." The decision weighed on Ethan like an anchor. He began therapy alone, exploring his identity, the sessions unearthing childhood memories of suppressed crushes and parental expectations. His father, a stern military man, had drilled into him that success meant conformity. Breaking free meant risking it all: divorce, public scrutiny, potential business fallout. But the alternative was a hollow existence. One night, after a heated argument with Rebecca over his late hours, he broke. "I think I'm gay," he said, the words tumbling out. Rebecca's face crumpled in shock and hurt, accusations flying. "How long? Who is he?" The revelation shattered their home, Liam's cries echoing the chaos as Rebecca packed a bag. In the aftermath, Ethan reached out to Kian, not for romance, but for support. Kian hesitated, betrayal cut deep, but seeing Ethan's vulnerability, he agreed to meet. They walked along the Golden Gate Bridge, wind whipping around them, as Ethan detailed the fallout. Rebecca filing for divorce, custody battles looming, whispers in the office. "I've lost everything," Ethan said. Kian shook his head. "No, you've gained yourself. But at what cost to them?" The question hung, forcing Ethan to confront the pain he'd inflicted. Yet in that moment, their hands brushed, a tentative promise of something real. As months unfolded, the relationship deepened amid turmoil. Ethan came out publicly in a company memo, facing backlash from some investors but surprising support from others. His startup stock dipped initially, but a wave of positive media coverage on his authenticity boosted it higher. Kian stood by him, but not without conflict. His family questioned the age gap and Ethan's baggage. Society labeled them with stereotypes. A particularly brutal moment came when Rebecca, in anger, accused Ethan of using Kian to destroy their family during a mediation session. Kian overheard, doubt seeding. Was he just a catalyst for Ethan's midlife crisis? The climax built during Pride Month. Ethan, now openly gay, was invited to speak at a parade event, but threats from online trolls surfaced, echoing societal prejudices. Kian urged him to back out for safety, but Ethan refused. "If I hide now, what was it all for?" The day arrived tense, crowds cheering as Ethan took the stage, Kian in the front row. Midway through his speech on the cost of silence, a heckler shouted slurs, security intervening. Shaken but resolute, Ethan finished, dedicating his words to Kian. "Love isn't unthinkable. It's essential." Post-event, they faced their own reckoning. Kian confessed his fears of being a rebound, Ethan admitting the ongoing guilt over Liam's split family. They argued fiercely in their shared apartment. Ethan had moved in after the divorce finalized, accusations of selfishness flying. "You chose me over your son," Kian yelled. Ethan countered, "I chose truth for all of us." The fight peaked with Kian storming out, spending the night at a friend's, questioning if the damage outweighed the joy. Reconciliation came slowly. Ethan prioritized co-parenting with Rebecca, who, after therapy, began to forgive, recognizing his unhappiness predated Kian. Kian reflected on his own biases, realizing love demanded compromise. They reunited with apologies and promises, therapy together, open communication. But scars remained. Ethan's relationship with his parents strained, Kian facing online harassment as the homewrecker. In the end, as they watched Liam play in the park one sunny afternoon, Ethan and Kian shared a quiet moment. The journey had cost friendships, stability, and innocence, but it forged unbreakable bonds. Yet, as Liam laughed, a question lingered in the air, unspoken but profound. Was coming out always the right choice, or did the collateral damage make silence the kinder path? Was Ethan's decision to embrace his truth ultimately selfish, or was it the only way to true liberation for everyone involved?